Yes, Tanmai, please come.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Please sit down.
Thanks.
So, Tanmai, you may please introduce yourself.
Yes, sir. My name is Tanmai Khanna. I was born in Delhi and I grew up here. When I was in middle school, I and my family moved to Noida, but I continued to go to the same school in Delhi. After my schooling, I went to Hyderabad, where I studied computational linguistics at IIIT Hyderabad as part of a dual degree, where I obtained both bachelor's as well as a master's. I graduated in 2021, after which I prepared for civil services. After giving my mains exam, I was offered a position at my former research lab as a research associate, where I'm working right now. Apart from that, for my extracurriculars, I used to be an active debater in college, and I enjoy singing and playing the bass guitar.
So, Tanmay, you're from Delhi.
Yes.
This Ram Navami has become, an annual event of clashes, between the groups and the communities. Now, how much you know about this yesterday's incident in Jahangir Puri?
So I read an overview in the newspaper that there was a confusion about the permissions that were given.
So they violated the permissions. And as for the latest report, nothing has been done by the administration. Now, you think that since, the governance is a challenge and the district administration imposes some restrictions and nobody is complying. So, do you think that these processions, which have some communal tinge, should be totally banned? Even Supreme Court has made a remark that politics and religion, when they get combined, they create problems. What do you have to say?
Sir, I don't think that we should ban processions altogether. They serve an important purpose. And in a country like India, everyone has a right to express their religion as well. However, if certain permissions weren't given and the procession went ahead anyways, there should be an investigation about what the failure was and to attach responsibility to certain officers or certain organizers of the event who should face adequate punishment. But I don't think that processions should be banned altogether.
All right. You have been a best adjudicator in Pilani, parliamentary debate. And you're also part of debating society. Now, Tanmay, you are in the parliament and you have to speak on the issue that the collegium is the best option today with the country to keep the judiciary independent.
Yes, sir.
Half a minute.
Yes, sir. Sir, I come today to talk about the important institution in our country, that is the judiciary, which is one of the most important pillars of our democracy. In our country, we've established a system of selecting judges by judges themselves, which I believe serves an important purpose in maintaining the independence of this judiciary. While the president ultimately appoints the judges, I think that it is important to denote that the executive and the parliament are staying away from appointment of the judges to strengthen our trust in the judicial system. And we believe that the judiciary is doing a good job in selecting these judges who express their judicial independence when it's needed, but also support the government, like the recent case where they said that there are certain areas where the parliament should continue to function. So we should respect each other's institutions.
Okay. Tanmay, coming to cyber security. Now, you think that the cyber security menace can be tackled only with laws?
So laws are certainly a starting point to tackle this menace. However, time and again, we've seen that the weakest point in this link is the lack of awareness about this issue. So there are several laws and there are several policies at play, but our main focus should be awareness, not only among government officials, but also...
So how would you make, say, a person who uses, internets and all these digital platforms, in very simple terms, how would you warn them or make them aware? Just give 3-4 points.
Yes, sir. So there are certain basic things that we see time and again in terms of awareness. First of all, in terms of selecting your password and not sharing it in different areas. Secondly, we talk about not clicking suspicious links, or in fact clicking any link which you aren't sure of its source. Thirdly, we must maintain a separation between our official internet usage and our personal internet usage, so that the official internet maintains a gap from the personal one. And
Okay. Tanmay, my last question. You are keeping this Bhutan and China issue. Are you following this?
yes, sir.
So, has Bhutan's Prime Minister's statement embarrassed India?
So, from what I read about the statement in the paper, it seemed that all Bhutan was saying that the issue is a trilateral issue and that all sides should have a say in the settlement of this issue. So, I don't think it embarrassed India at all.
So, if Bhutan could settle the borders, why can't India?
So, Bhutan maintains a middle position between India and China. Even Bhutan, I believe, hasn't been very successful in the past in settling these. However, India and China are two big powers that are clashing at the borders, and therefore settling those border issues are much more difficult compared to Bhutan.
All right. Thank you, Tanmay. I pass on to a member.
Thank you, sir.
So, Tanmay, are you satisfied with the performance of ChatGPT?
Sir, it has certainly impressed me with its fluency. But in our field, we've known for a long time that in these systems, fluency often hides certain underlying issues. So even in my personal usage, I've noticed that there are a lot of factual errors that ChatGPT makes. So it's a good starting point, but it certainly has its issues.
On the aspect of creativity, would you like to make a comment on ChatGPT?
Yes, sir. Creativity, if it's defined as creating something entirely new with the knowledge that you have, ChatGPT has certainly been able to take a lot of information and create concise paragraphs out of it, but it's certainly not as creative as humans.
Okay. Are there competitors? Bard was a competitor at one point of time.
Yes.
Do you think still it is a competitor?
There were certain issues when they released Bard. It made a very grievous factual error in its presentation. Even Bing, which is using ChatGPT, also had certain issues. And it shows that instead of working on this technology properly, there's a sudden rush to create more and more systems. So we must focus on the underlying aspect of it.
Your master's degree, did it also was in the same direction, linguistics?
Yes, sir. But my focus was not on chatbots, but on translation.
On translations.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, how it is useful?
So, our work, we worked on several projects such as Bhashini or Swayam, where our main focus was translating online lectures into Indian languages. So, there are lots of tools being created for English as well as Hindi, but lots of other Indian languages like Telugu, Kannada, Malayalam are being ignored. So, our focus was on bringing a larger base into these systems.
In Gujarat, there is a interesting case where Mr. Rahul Gandhi has been convicted of some offence. Now, what I understand, the plea is that it is taking a lot of time in translating from Gujarati to whatever language the court understands. I think English is a language. Do you think really it takes such a long time in translating?
So translation is a complex procedure, which I believe gets even more complicated when it comes to legal documents, whereby the interpretation of every word can change the outcome of this case. So yes, it is a very time-taking procedure, but we also in our research lab have worked on automating the translation of court documents, and automating it can help reduce the time a lot in the translation.
So that means that's a field which is yet open.
Yes, sir.
For good work.
Yes, sir. Definitely.
Okay. Marriage is an institution. As we know, marriage, it is an institution from a study of sociology point of view. Now, what is impact on this institution from same-sex marriage?
So, like you said, the current notion of marriage as an institution is that is one between a man and a woman. So, allowing same-sex marriage certainly, I believe, to a certain extent, damages the sanctity that people hold to this institution, which is why I believe that while marriage as an institution will continue to evolve, it should evolve from the grassroots rather than a top-down legislation.
Mhm. Any study from the countries where same-sex marriage has been legalized long time back about impact on children of same-sex marriage couples?
So I'm not able to recall a study as of now,
Mhm.
but I'll definitely read.
Any idea which are prominent countries which have permitted it long time back?
Yes, sir. South Africa is one country. Australia also, I believe. I think there are about 32 countries that have legalized same-sex marriage as of now.
I think among the prominent ones, even Canada has permitted.
Yes, sir.
And of course, Switzerland and Netherlands,
Yes,
they
sir.
have permitted. Okay. Good. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So, good morning, Tanmai.
Good morning, sir.
I would like you to compare Telangana and Delhi on socio-economic parameters. You need not give data.
So I would first like to say that my experience in Telangana has been a small part of it from Hyderabad. So I certainly didn't get a full picture of the socioeconomic situation of Hyderabad. But comparing the two things, I'm aware that in terms of history, Telangana had a strong movement in support of land reforms. Therefore, the land usage per capita is probably higher in Telangana than in places like Delhi or in North India, where larger landlords own a big amount of land and there are more tenants. In terms of gender and sex, culturally, from my experience, there is a more egalitarian relationship in Telangana between men and women, particularly in the public sphere. Whereas in Delhi, in the rural areas, there is more strictness.
Okay, so that's enough, Tanmay. Do you think intolerance is on the rise?
So, in my personal opinion and what I've experienced, I don't believe intolerance is on the rise. However, it has become more visible with the coming of social media. It's become easy to put our point across to the whole world. So it seems like there's a lot more intolerance, even though it's only in the fringe elements.
You're part of Google coding program in 2019 and 20, right? So, what's your opinion on teaching coding to small kids?
So I believe that coding, beyond actually writing code, is a very important skill for people to know. I believe that it teaches you how to take a real world problem, how to break this problem in chunks, and then how to slowly create your own way of dealing with this problem. So for small kids, I don't believe we need to teach them how to write code, but the aspect of coding can certainly help.
You also like singing rock music and Bollywood music. So, what's your take on remaking of old songs?
So I believe that one of the fundamental values in music is that there is freedom, and there's also, as time changes, we want the music to reflect our society. So I believe that it's perfectly fine to remake old music as long as there is a creativity to it, as long as we're working on it to make it better for the modern world. It also helps for people to go back to their roots and understand where our culture comes from.
The close proximity between Russia and China, how do you think it will impact India?
So the close proximity between Russia and China has at some points become a worry for India because if the RCP axis, as they call it, when Russia, China and Pakistan strengthens a lot, then India remains the only major power in Asia. and it would have no choice but to align with the other powers such as USA or Europe, which ultimately will harm India's interests. So, maintaining strong relationships with Russia acts as a good buffer for a growing China.
And Tanmay, I would like to know, why do you wish to join civil services?
Yes, sir. So, my experience in college and working on several research projects and government funded projects has made me realize that I want to do much more than contribute through my software. And through civil services, I believe that at the start, you can really contribute at the grassroots. And as you rise, you can have a strong strategic position in the government of India's decision making at a very broad level. So I believe that civil services will allow me to do much more.
Okay, thank you, Tanmay. I pass on to the other member.
Thank you, sir.
Tanmay, you're from Delhi. Now, suppose you are made the chief administrator of the municipal affairs of Delhi. Okay? So, you are just now telling that implementation and policy making, decision making, etc. So, in Delhi, there are many congested areas where there are no green belts, there are no parks, etc. Very congested area. So, to make them green, what type of interventions will you take as an administrator of municipal affairs?
Yes, sir. So, in that position, I believe my first step would be to study the current situation, how many people live in a particular area. And my second step would be to understand how perhaps this population can expand, not just across Delhi, but also beyond Delhi. So, to create green spaces, my first job would be to understand where the people would move. If they need to move to create green spaces, if we need to remove certain encroachments to create green spaces.
Suppose I give this proposition that you don't require to move the people from there because they are homes.
Yes, sir.
They can't leave their homes. Now, in that situation, how you are making that area green? How you will make that area green? What you will promote?
Yes, sir. So perhaps we could explore a way in which we could convert green spaces into an avenue for not only employment, but also to improve the air quality around this area. So what I mean is that if we create certain green belts and give these people employment to manage these green spaces as a community.
But there are no spaces, Tanmay, over there. There are only buildings. Only residential buildings are there. No spaces.
I'll have to think more.
Okay. Now, you are in Delhi, again, as a chief administrator of municipal things, you know. There are so many residential welfare associations, you know, big societies are there, number of societies are there. What few things you will suggest to them to adopt so that they adopt this life cycle for environment which has been propagated by our Prime Minister. So to propagate or to advance the life, what type of suggestions or what type of things you will suggest to these residential welfare associations of societies as an administrator? What you will do?
So I believe that one of the things that is great about Indian people is that we all want to do our part for the country as a patriotic duty. Therefore, I believe that the RWA should probably try and appeal to this sense of patriotism in the people and say that our country, not only as a leader of G20, but our Prime Minister has called upon us to show the world that we as Indians not only talk about higher.
So specifically, what type of things you will suggest to them, to the secretary of the RWA? Okay, do this, do this, do this, 1, 2, 3, for promoting life cycle for environment. What you will do?
Sir, as part of life, there are lots of personal responsibilities that are listed. So I believe the RWA can spread awareness, put up posters in their colonies and say that within their homes people should conserve electricity, conserve water. RWA can perhaps improve renewable energy usage in their colonies, improve rainwater harvesting. So by taking these concrete steps first, they will show the people that the RWA is creating infrastructure that will inspire people to further take
Okay,
action.
Tanmai, Delhi is facing a lot of water problem also, lot of water problems. So can you tell me what are some specific problems that the water treatment plants of Delhi are facing nowadays? What are the problems they are facing? This Wazirpur and I think
Yes, sir.
a lot of problems are there. What type of problems they are facing?
So one of the problems that was reported in the newspaper is that there is a high amount of ammonia in the water that is coming, which takes, I believe it's harder to...
Okay. Tanmai, my last question is about, do you have any out-of-box idea to break the urban apathy towards elections? Because generally urban people, they don't come out for election to vote, no? Do you have any idea any out-of-box idea to break this urban apathy?
So I would say that I don't know if it's out of the box, but really appealing to their sense of patriotism, particularly urban people, and telling them how important it is to vote to truly be Indian, perhaps would make them feel that if they don't vote, then they aren't really contributing to the greatness of our nation. Could be one way to approach it.
Thank you, Tanmai.
Thank you.
Tanmai, it is said that climate is the new trade weapon of EU. Do you agree with this?
So the EU has certainly created a lot of these laws like a recent law that was created was that there will be certain disadvantages given to products that come from countries which use a lot of fossil fuels. So
Like what are those disadvantages?
If I recall correctly, there are certain duties that they put on products in countries that use fossil fuels in the production of these products, which ultimately harm developing countries who haven't had enough time to deal with this or actually been the main contributors of this. So yes, in a certain way, they are using it as a weapon of trade.
124A, same section has been struck down by Pakistan High Court. Whether it is a precursor that this section, same wordings are absolutely same. Have you heard about this?
I read it in the newspaper today.
So is it a time we should also abandon, completely strike down this article? And what is the current position?
So Pakistan's striking down of sedition should certainly not be a factor in our striking
But
down.
we borrowed the doctrine of basic structure from Pakistan only. If you see, it is when Keshwanand Bharati, before that, this basic structure doctrine was also borrowed. There is nothing. Supposing some right thing happens somewhere, we can definitely. What is the reason why the wordings are same? What the section says, 124A?
So if I recall correctly, it says that any attempt to excite disaffection against the government should be...
You have been doing this animal rights. Can animals have right, or they are only subject matter of law? Can they have right on their own, or somebody needs to exercise them? Are they subject matter of law, or they can hold rights also?
So they are subject matter of the law because giving them rights in certain cases precursors that they can fight for these rights themselves, which we know that they can't. So we as humans act as ambassadors.
So what kind of rights you are talking about, and you have been involved in past?
Yes, sir. So in the current laws, the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act talks about certain rights.
Which rights?
They talk about the freedom from unnecessary pain. They talk about the freedom from thirst and hunger, freedom to exercise their natural...
But do we have some constitutional provision for protection of animals? whether in directive principles or in fundamental duties?
Yes, sir. The Directive Principle 48A, I believe, talks about protection of our wildlife and of our natural resources. Fundamental duties are more clearer on this, where they also talk about the compassion for these animals.
Tanmay, dogs are the oldest companion of human being, but difficulty is when there is a conflict. Stray dogs there is some kind of a conflict. So what should be the solution considering the fact they also hold certain rights?
Yes, sir.
How to resolve this conflict?
Yes, sir. So, when we study the reasons for these conflicts, a lot of times we find that if we aggressively pursue spaying and neutering of stray animals, if we have designated feeding spaces so that they don't attack humans or different markets for food, and if they're vaccinated.
What are point wise if you can, so that I can easily follow it?
Yes, sir. So first of all, we should have neuter all of community animals.
But that is not cruelty.
So the reason I believe it's not cruelty is because the alternate outcome is more cruel, where they keep having more and more babies and which die on the street because of accidents, and ultimately there's even more aggressive struggle between these two.
Tanmay, my last question is, you have been a debater, but the quality of debates, whether in media or in other constitutional body, is not of that standard what it used to be. What should be the fundamental principles of debating which should be followed so that the quality of debate improves?
So I believe that the fundamental principle of debating is to respect the other side enough to debate in the middle. If both sides...
One is respecting the other. Second?
Yes, sir. Second is to be open to compromise, where if you only take extreme positions, then the debate will not go anywhere. The focus should be on coming up with a solution than only putting your point.
Have you heard about Hegel's theory of dialectics?
Yes, sir.
What it says?
So dialectics basically says that progress comes through the synthesis of two opposing ideas. The thesis and the antithesis creates the synthesis. So debating basically acts as a way of progress to bring thesis and antithesis together to go forward.
Debating should be for improvement,
yes,
of the subject. In the sense we go to the root of the problem and find solutions.
Exactly, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Tanmay, anything from your DAF which we may not have covered during our interview?
So I think you covered.
You have covered almost all the things. So, thank you, Tanmay. We close our interview. You may wait at the waiting room for some time. We'll call you again.
Thank you, sir.
Namaskar, Tanmay. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
So, Tanmay, how do you think you have done today?
So I thought I did well. There are certain areas that I need to improve upon.
What are those areas?
So when Sir asked me about what I would do to improve the green spaces, I believe that maybe I wasn't able to come up with a
All right.
satisfactory.
So, basically, it was with regard to some question which you could not.
Yes,
Feel
particularly
properly.
situation-based question.
All right. So, Tanmay, you have done very well. You are actually done very well, and we are very impressed with your performance. And you are good in all spheres. Right? You are very confident, and your conversation was very, very balanced, concise, good content, quality content, and you were comfortable throughout, and quite articulate, and you were able to express your points in the least possible, words. That is very good. It was a good conversation also, and intelligent conversation, I would say. So, Tanmay, from all angles, you are doing very well. Your interview is when?
11th April.
11th April. So, I can say that you're almost ready, Tanmay.
Yes.
Almost ready. And coming to any individual issues which we discussed, well, this procession thing, I was happy with your answer that it should not be banned and it should be made more stricter. and Collegium also. Collegium thing lacked a little bit of punch, you know.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I felt it lacked content.
It was a bit generic, you
Yes.
know. And what you could have mentioned is that, sir, NJEC is not the right. You should have, you know, there is a thing called, the weeding out the various options,
Yes, sir.
right? Eliminating.
Yes, sir.
So one is, sir, NJEC would not have served this. NJEC would not have served this purpose, and it was rightly, you know, bring some force
Yes, sir.
to make your point,
Yes, sir.
because it had some touch of the executive, and it was rightly rejected by, what have you to, आपको क्या है, आप तो debate कर रहे हो,
Yes, sir.
right? And so there cannot be any committee, you know, having any executive to appoint judges. The government already has a power to finally issue the appointment
Yes, sir.
and can make queries, right? And thirdly, you could have also said that Collegium is also very well represented.
Yes, sir.
It has the Chief Justice, the two senior justices of the Supreme Court, and this.
Yes, sir.
And there have not been any issues that we have heard from the judiciary itself.
Yes, sir.
You see, when the judges appoint the judges, there may have been a possibility, थोड़ा बहुत तो इधर उधर कुछ smoke निकलता रहता है, that is very obvious. But
Yes.
nothing as such that there has been, just like politics में criticism होता है, judiciary में कहाँ देखा कि किसी ने कहा कि सर मेरे साथ अन्याय हो गया.
Yes.
It's a different matter that they have a different culture. But whatever, they have a culture of intellectuals,
Yes.
just like bureaucrats. Even bureaucrats don't crib if they are posted. There are some exceptions like that. हरियाणा वाला जो आदमी है, वो हर बार ट्रांसफर होता है तो he cribs and comes to the press. So you can give that also.
Certainly.
So bring some force and this thing too.
Definitely.
And then you quote the previous judgments.
Yes, sir.
So the Supreme Court has already adjudicated on this, and Supreme Court's constitutional bench making this, judgment is the law for the country.
Yes.
So bring some more
Yes.
punch to the, by quoting few things.
Certainly.
Otherwise, you're absolutely good.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, Tanmai, you're a very good candidate.
Thank you, sir.
You're cool, confident, stable in approach. Balance of judgment is also very good. And since your day for the interview is not very far, so it's a time to very closely scrutinize the newspapers every day.
Yes, sir.
Whatever is being there. And because sometimes the members read newspaper and then straightway ask you questions based on that day or previous day news item.
Yes, sir.
So analyze each news item which is in line with your depth
Yes, sir.
and your important points like you have done from computer science, linguistics, sociology. These are high points. So with respect to that, you prepare
Yes.
so that you do well there also. Don't get guided by too many mocks here and there. No need. You are quite good at it. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Tanmai, you have done very well. So, you are ready for the interview. Keep it up. Wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
Tanmai, you are an excellent candidate. You have done very well. Regarding this thing, just read something about vertical gardens
Yes.
and homestead organic gardens.
Yes.
Right? So they are a good alternative for these congested areas and all that. So you can promote those things in those societies, right?
Yes.
In such areas. Otherwise, overall, you are a very, very excellent candidate.
Thank you, sir.
You've done very well. All the best.
Thank you.
आपकी अगर आंसर्स पॉइंट वाइज होंगी ना तो वी विल आल्सो नो दिस इज वेयर फर्स्ट पॉइंट एंड्स एंड दिस इज वेयर यू आर टॉकिंग अबाउट द सेकंड कांसेप्ट राइट.
Yes.
एक आंसर के 3-4 लिम्स हो सकती हैं. अब फर्स्ट लिम कहाँ खत्म होता है, सेकंड इफ यू से इट इन अ पॉइंटेड मैनर probably it will demonstrate your personality in a more,
Sir,
it will enhance your personality. All the best. You are doing very well.
thank you so much.
You have a pleasing personality.
Thank you, sir.
So, Tanmai, anything you would like to ask us?
That's it.
Nothing? So, all the best, Tanmai. You will certainly do very well.
Thank you, sir.
This is your first attempt at interview?
Yes.
And how have you done your mains?
So I thought it went well.
Well. So, Tanmai, all the very best.
Thank you, sir.
You will do very well. Okay.